Welcome to Kansas Ag Report. I'm Ken Rogers. On this week's program, a conversation with the President and CEO of the U.S. Meat Export Federation, Dan Halstrom, after what was a record-breaking year or near record-breaking in 2022. We'll also have features from Kansas Corn, Kansas Wheat, and the Kansas Farm Bureau, and the weekly update from the Kansas Livestock Association, and market information from Pinion.
Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Kansas Farm Bureau, a grassroots ag organization representing the state's farm and ranch families since 1919, kfb.org. And the Kansas Wheat Commission, lending in the adoption of profitable innovations from wheat, online at kswheat.com.
In agriculture news, the two top U.S. trade officials in agriculture met recently in Mexico City with high-ranking Mexican government officials over the U.S. opposition to a planned Mexican ban on genetically modified corn. The talks with Alexis Taylor, USDA's new Undersecretary for Trade and Foreign Agricultural Affairs, and Doug McKillop, the Chief Ag Negotiator in the Office of U.S. Trade Representative, were productive, and the two sides say they will continue working to maintain and increase the important agricultural trade. Taylor and McKillop, though, issued a joint statement after the meeting was over, saying their appearance of Mexico's appreciation and willingness to modify the ban, but said changes which would still bar U.S. white corn from food production is not enough. And they said they made it clear at that meeting that if the issue is not resolved, they will consider all options, including taking formal steps to enforce the rights under the U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement, they said. A GOP lawmaker who has proposed cuts to crop insurance is getting a seat on the House Rules Committee. Well, that committee determines what amendments get debated on the House floor. In 2018, Representative Ralph Norman of South Carolina proposed a Farm Bill amendment that would have slashed premium subsidies by 15% for producers with adjusted gross incomes of more than $50,000 a year. Another amendment was co-sponsored by Norman that would have effectively eliminated the harvest price option. Now, keep in mind, neither amendment got a vote on the House floor because the GOP leadership strictly limited the types of amendments that were to be debated. But Republicans are pushing for a more open amendment process in this new Congress. Other hardline conservatives getting a rules seat included Chip Roy of Texas. We'll have more and Dan Halstrom in just a moment.
The Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by Kansas Grain Sorghum. Growers working together. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. grassandgrain.com.
Imagine turning soybean oil, used cooking oils, and waste animal fats into fuel so amazing it drives U.S. jobs and our economy forward. Learn more about biodiesel at americasadvancedbiofuel.com.
Commodity Classic has everything you need to help prepare for the next generation of farming. Take your farming operation to the next level and join us in Orlando March 9th through 11th, 2023. Learn more at commodityclassic.com.
Joining us now is Dan Halstrom, who's the President and CEO of the U.S. Meat Export Federation. Dan, always great to see you.
Likewise, thank you.
As we wrapped up 2022, looking at 2023, every month you send out those releases, and boy, how many months did we get over? Just big numbers.
Yeah, we've been several months there. We're averaging $1 billion a month in beef exports, and I think we're going to come in the year, although we were off a little bit in September, and October's stats will be out next week, and we think we'll be down a little there too because of the strong dollar mainly. But we're going to be coming in close to $12 billion in sales for the year, which would easily be a new record over last year. And I hate to sound like a broken record, but it's really about broad-based growth across quite a few different markets. And I might note that our largest value market, Japan, is actually down slightly. So the fact that we're setting records with Japan not hitting on all cylinders is a pretty good testament to our diversification of the markets.
Well, and that's, I think, one of the things over the years you and I have talked.
a lot of it has been on about Japan, much like
Yep.
China on some of the grains. It was always about Japan, and with Japan being down, and with that whole Asia situation because of COVID, not only your team but others have just done yeoman's work in continuing to develop those markets, finding markets for those cuts maybe that we don't consume here, and it's just brought not only big volumes, big dollars especially.
Yeah, anytime you get more customers at the table for same products, more demand, what happens is the prices generically go up. And a really good example is something as simple as beef livers. Instead of having just Egypt buying beef livers today, we've got probably 8 or 9, 10 different countries, several in Africa, Angola, Gabon, South Africa, and then you've got a lot of South American countries also buying the livers in addition to Egypt and Morocco. And what happens? Instead of being 30 cents a pound, it's 60 or 70 cents a pound. Same thing with short plates. And the short plates peaked out this year almost at $4 a pound wholesale, and a lot of that had to do with having China competing with Korea, Japan, and Taiwan. So to your point, the more we can diversify, it's good on a lot of fronts.
Let's talk, our friends to the north and to the south. Those are also key markets.
Yep.
They were also key markets this last year.
Yeah, the NAFTA or USMCA countries now, lifelong trading partners, right? So Mexico and Canada are extremely important to both the beef and pork side. And quite frankly, on pork, if it wasn't for Mexico, it would have been kind of a brutal year because we had China down as much as it was. But as it turns out, we're going to end up with a pretty good year, and a lot of it has to do with Latin America. So yeah, it's about having all these markets at the table, and the markets don't all buy the same thing. On the beef side, the Mexican market is very important for rounds.
Right.
The round primal, and whereas the chuck roll and the middle meats are more so in Asia. So that's another key.
Dan Halstrom is President and CEO of the U.S. Meat Export Federation. Let's take a quick break. Come back with more in just a moment.
Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by the Kansas Livestock Association, supporting members' business interests and meeting consumer demands. KLA.org. Oldie Seed Farms, carrying soil-specific seed. Find them on the web at oldieseed.com. That's OHLDE seed.com. And Kansas Corn, building the future at kansascorn.com.
And Dan Halstrom, the President and CEO of U.S. Meat Export Federation, is joining us. And Dan, we know there's a number of headwinds facing this industry. Inflation, confidence, not only domestically but internationally. What are some of the things you're looking at moving forward?
Yeah, I think there's two levels of concern, and there's a lot of headwinds, but these are not new. A lot of these have been building for the whole year. And let's start with the logistics side. We have the international supply chain, which has been a discussion back to 2021. That situation probably has improved a little bit, actually, where we've had some stabilization in the freight rates internationally. The problem with that is they've stabilized at much higher rates, but at least the volatility has slowed down and availability of containers is better. But that being said, we do have some concerns on logistics here at home. Number one, we have a rail strike that's still pending. Hopefully, it looks like Congress might help us avert that, which we need to. But we still have a pending West Coast longshoreman contract that dates back to July 1. Now, typically, these are never renewed right at July 1. It takes months, but here we are almost the end of the year. We cannot afford to have any kind of a West Coast shutdown. So those are two things that we're watching very closely. You go a little bit to more of a macro sense of the concern. Of course, a strong U.S. dollar the last 4 or 5 months in particular. And I mentioned earlier with Japan, part of our synopsis there is that we're down a bit, and a lot of that has to do with a yen that's devalued by 35% against the U.S. dollar. So our products are 35% more expensive. That has not helped. Now we're still selling $2.3 billion a year, so It's not like it's shutting the market off, but it definitely is a headwind. The good news on exchange rates is that in the last 45 days, we've seen that moderate. So the yen, where it peaked out at a 150 yen to the dollar, we're back to about a 135 today. So that's moving in the right direction. So, and then in addition to all that, you hit on it, the inflationary aspects of pricing in general. At what point does global disposable income in these key markets start to slow down? So far, I would argue it hasn't, or it has only been impacted minimally, but we need to watch this closely.
What about Asia? Let's talk about China, especially with what's going on with the COVID, with the shutdown. Are they with what, some unrest there? That brings unrest all over the world. Russia, Putin. I mean, those are other huge headwinds that there's not much your team can.
Right.
You got to play within those boundaries, I guess.
Yeah, the China situation. It's a real. I get the question all the time. Well, how long are we going to keep talking about China? Well, we've been talking about China my whole career, and we probably will talk about it for a long time hereafter. The situation today in China is one where Xi has made the decision to go forward with a zero COVID policy. The rest of the world has adopted a living with COVID policy. Korea and Japan being the last two in April that moved over to the way the Western world has been doing it. So they have a real problem on their hands because their efficacy of their own vaccine in China is very low. Estimates are 10 to 20% effectiveness. So basically they have no vaccine. And they have no herd immunity because no one's been out and about. So now you're starting to see tens of thousands of cases a day. So this is the reason, they've adopted the zero COVID. I'll give you an example. Disneyland a few weeks ago in Shanghai had one positive case. They shut down the entire Disneyland. They test 7,000 people on the premises. No one can leave until the results are back. And then when the results come back, they traced back to 70,000 people that were direct contact. This is the sort of draconian measures that are being taken. You can imagine if you're in a province that has a positive and you're a little food service operator selling U.S. beef and you have one positive, they're shut down for 5 days. So as you can imagine, the food service is just getting decimated over there.
Right.
Meanwhile, retail online is booming and U.S. beef is booming, but it would certainly be better if food service was back to normal.
Okay. So what are those other markets we should be looking to see even more expansion in the coming year?
Yeah, I think with Japan and Korea just coming out of their COVID lockdowns May 1, and Korea's coming along a little quicker, Japan's a little slower, but I think there's some tailwinds there going into 2023. Pent-up demand at food service that'll rebound. So I think that's a good thing. I think that Latin America continues to do well. A lot of these markets start out being more pork markets. And now with the middle income, or I should say the middle class growing, they're expanding to more U.S. beef, even though the price point is higher. And I think this is another opportunity. So those are some of the existing markets. And then don't take your eye off of Africa. Okay. I really think Africa will expand beyond just variety meats at some point here. And we could see more beef muscle meats going in there.
Okay, very good. Well, Dan, appreciate it. Thanks for coming to Kansas, and always great to catch up with you. And we'll talk with you again.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Dan Halstrom, the President and CEO of U.S. Meat Export Federation, has joined us. We'll have more coming up in just a moment.
What if U.S. soybean meal were more than a commodity? If seed companies and the soybean checkoff built a better variety? That future is here. The time is now. To meet end-user demands, the Soybean Checkoff is investing in the compositional quality of soybeans, including meal. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and LibertyLink that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
Good afternoon. This is Bill Johnston with Kansas Corn, and I'm about to have my afternoon snack. One of my favorite afternoon snacks is popcorn, but I don't have any popcorn. I do have some field corn though, and all corn's the same, right? Actually, listen. It is popping. This might work. Let's see. Well, kind of popped. Not like popcorn, but hey, all corn's the same, right? Let me try a little bit of it. It's terrible. This was a bad idea. All corn is not the same. We commonly recognize 4 types of corn. One is flint corn that is commonly used for decorating. Lots of times it's called Indian corn. It has a hard shell, and it can come in many different colors. Then there's popcorn. Popcorn's a popular snack food that pops when we heat it. It's actually a type of flint corn, but it's become so popular that now we consider it a separate type. Then there's the kind that we eat, which is sweet corn. We only use sweet corn for food because it obviously tastes good. It's tender and juicy, and we harvest it right on the cob. Lots of times that sweet corn plant has more than one ear, and it's one of the shorter kinds of corn. And then finally, there's dent corn, the most common kind of corn that we raise in Kansas by far. We use it for feed and lots of other things. To us, this stuff tastes bad. It's hard, it's dry. We harvest it off the cob. Usually each plant only has one ear. We use it for lots of non-food products too, like ethanol and shampoo and actually thousands of other things. But we use it in food sometimes too. Cornbread, corn oil, and cornstarch.
Imagine turning soybean oil, used cooking oils, and waste animal fats into fuel so amazing it drives U.S. jobs and our economy forward. Learn more about biodiesel at americasadvancedbiofuel.com.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
Whether it's a go-to recipe or revamped family favorite or a combination of unique-to-you flavors, put your creativity to the test in a quest to become the Best of Breads champion in the 2023 National Festival of Breads. Enter your favorite yeast bread or roll recipe now through February 13th, 2023 for the chance to win prizes and share your tips and tricks with other amateur bakers across the country. The 8th National Festival of Breads is sponsored by King Arthur Baking Company and Kansas Wheat. Entries for the virtual contest are open now through February 13th, 2023. Each eligible entry will be reviewed by a qualified panel of food experts, and selected recipes will be test-baked in the test kitchen at Kansas Wheat Commission in Manhattan, Kansas. This year's contest includes 4 categories. Quick and easy, create a yeast bread or roll recipe using time-saving steps, techniques, and ingredients for a busy lifestyle in 4 hours or less, including baking time. Any dough must be fully baked. A bread machine may be used. Wholesome and healthy, revamp an old family recipe, heirloom recipe, or a tried and true favorite using healthier ingredients, and explain why it is healthy. Go nuts, create a yeast bread or roll recipe incorporating nuts in the dough or filling. Say cheese, submit your original yeast bread or roll recipe using your favorite cheese or cheeses. The overall Best of Breads champion will be announced virtually on June 1st, 2023. Each category winner will receive a baking bundle prize. Package and overall champion will receive $1,000. A People's Choice winner will also be selected from the category winners by online voters and will receive an additional prize package. Check out nationalfestivalbreads.com. Find out more information on the 2023 National Festival of Breads. Check out previous winners and submit your original recipe and photo there.
Sorghum is one of the most important cereal crops worldwide, and Kansas leads the nation in its production. Over the years, sorghum has been either exported, used in animal feed domestically, or for other industrial uses. Recently, its use in the ethanol market has seen tremendous growth, with 30% of domestic sorghum typically going to ethanol production. Kansas Grain Sorghum is committed to sorghum research, market development, and education. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org.
Kenneth Allen Campbell Jr.'s passion for agriculture is evident in his community as he supports and educates youth and consumers. Campbell is noted by friends and family as a servant leader and can often be found behind the scenes of an event, leading by example. He is passionate about food insecurity issues and impacting young leaders in agriculture through mentoring. According to those that know him, Campbell is truly a pillar of the agricultural community. Congratulations.
Mankato native Greg Dowd has given a lifetime of service to the agriculture industry. Raised on a dry land wheat, grain sorghum, soybean, swine, and cow-calf operation, he continues to be involved in his family's 100-year-old farm and is a partner in a commercial cow-calf operation. He was involved in 4-H and served on the Kansas State FFA officer team from 1986 to 1987 and received an undergraduate and graduate degree from Kansas State University. Greg currently resides with his family on their horse farm in Maryland. Prior to joining Aimpoint Research, Greg served in the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative as Chief Agricultural Negotiator with the rank of U.S. Ambassador. He was one of the primary architects of the U.S.-China Phase 1 trade agreement. Greg has previously served as president of the Commodity Markets Council, the leading trade association for commodity futures exchanges and their industry counterparts, where he worked to lead the industry in addressing global market and risk management issues. As a senior staff member of the Senate Agriculture Committee, he helped craft the 2012 Senate Farm Bill, working on international trade, food aid, livestock, and oversight of the Commodity Futures Trading Commission. Greg served as a chief economist for the National Cattlemen's Beef Association for 8 years and is a former market analyst for the U.S. Wheat Associates. Thank you, Greg, for your service and leadership to agriculture.
Kansas Corn reminds you that E15 fuel is the right choice for every kind of driver. For the car enthusiast, E15 has higher octane. For the thrifty driver, E15 is priced lower than regular unleaded. For the nature lover, E15 provides cleaner air. For the shopper who buys local, E15 has more ethanol from our Kansas corn farms. Choose E15 for a higher octane, lower price, cleaner American fuel. Message from the Kansas Corn Commission. Learn more at kscorn.com.
U.S. Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack announced last week 2 new programs to fill gaps in 2020 and 2021 assistance programs for producers. The application period for the Emergency Relief Program Phase 2 and Pandemic Assistance Revenue Program is open from January 23rd through June 2nd. To be eligible for ERP Phase 2, producers must have suffered a decrease in allowable gross revenue in 2020 or 2021 due to necessary expenses related to losses of qualifying crops from an eligible natural disaster, including wildfires, drought, and winter storms. Assistance primarily will be for producers of crops that were not covered by federal crop insurance or the Non-Insured Crop Disaster Assistance Program, since crops covered by these programs were included in assistance provided under Phase 1 of the Emergency Relief Program. To be eligible for the Pandemic Assistance Revenue Program, an ag producer must have been in the business of farming during at least part of 2020 and had a 15% or greater decrease in allowable gross revenue for the 2020 calendar year, as compared to a baseline year. For more information, producers should contact their local Farm Service Agency office.
Imagine turning soybean oil, used cooking oils, and waste animal fats into fuel so amazing it drives U.S. jobs and our economy forward. Learn more about biodiesel at americasadvancedbiofuel.com.
Good day. I'm Derek Hermish with Pinion. If you waited until after the January crop report to sell some corn, you were paid off in the form of a friendly crop report surprise with a reduction in total harvested acres, creating a drop in projected carryout, even though our current marketing year export commitments are roughly half of last year for the same time frame. So now what do? I can honestly say I don't know. I confess I'm as unsure about what the price possibilities hold in store for this year as any year in recent memory. They say the older you get, the less you know, meaning the older you get, the more you learn how much you don't know as compared to what you thought you knew. Even though I'm unsure of what the market is going to do this year, I find myself as confident as I've ever been in my approach and risk management plan for clients heading into this year. I'm guessing there are a few folks out there who share that sentiment and are feeling their oats after the last couple of years. High prices have a way of doing that. Be sure your confidence is not tied to thinking you know what the market is going to do, but in the actions you've taken thus far and your plan for what you are going to do when it doesn't go the way you expected. And if you'd like some help with that, give us a call at 888-452-8751. I'm Derek Hermish. Have a good day.
That's our show this week. Be social with us online at kansasagreport.net or our social media channels. I'm Ken Rogers. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.
Kansas Corn reminds you that E15 fuel is the right choice for every kind of driver. For the car enthusiast, E15 has higher octane. For the thrifty driver, E15 is priced lower than regular unleaded. For the nature lover, E15 provides cleaner air. For the shopper who buys local, E15 has more ethanol from our Kansas corn farms. Choose E15 for a higher octane, lower price, cleaner American fuel. Message from the Kansas Corn Commission. Learn more at kscorn.com.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.